All right, we're going to take a look at Chapter 5. We're starting in Key Issue 1. We're looking at where are languages distributed. Language. This is a system of communication through speech, a collection of sounds that a group of people understand to have the same meaning. We go deeper with literary tradition. This is a system of written communications. And when we're talking about a group of people, their literary tradition is how they communicate consistently. As far as selecting an official language, this is what's used by the government for laws, reports, signs, public objects, money, or stamps. So we start to have a group of people that are consistently using the same communication system. When we look at our organization of world languages, we've got a language family, which is a collection of languages related through a common ancestry long before recorded history. So way back in the day, we had language families that started to develop. We move down from there. We've got, if you're thinking about a tree, you move down from the family or the trunk of the tree to the branch, which would be the language branch. This is a collection of languages within a family that existed several thousand years ago. So we're starting to progress through history and getting more specific with the language branch. And then finally we move to a language group, which is very specific. It's a collection of languages within a branch that share a common origin in the relatively recent past. And you've got examples of languages here. Looking specifically at our tree, you can start to see the language families and branches broken down. For example, you get a look at the language family, which would be this trunk here, and let's see what exactly we're looking at. Okay, so we've got the Sino-Tibetan language family here, and it breaks down into the branches. I'm going to leave this on. So it breaks down to the branch, which would be like the Tibeto-Burman branch and the Thai-Kadai branch. Those are the branches, obviously, and then the individual languages would be the leaves. So if we're looking at all these leaves here on the Sino-Tibetan family, our biggest leaf is Mandarin, because that's the largest language spoken from that language family. The thing is, the larger the trunks or leaves, the greater number of speakers. So because Mandarin is the largest, you're going to see this huge leaf right here. The cool thing is, you look down here at possible prehistoric families, like language families that might have existed before the more developed Sino-Tibetan. You've got the Sino-Caucasian potentially below ground here on the roots or the beginnings of the trunk. So 2/3 of the people in the world speak an Indo-European or Sino-Tibetan language. Look over here at our pie chart. We can see that Indo-European is by far the most spoken. Sino-Tibetan is second. So Indo-European is going to be our English language family. We look specifically at our branch, and we're going to look below ground, and we start to see, let's zoom in here even further so we can get an idea what's going on. That doesn't really help very much there, does it? But I believe it's Nestralig, and so we are starting at the roots prehistorically here, but we get to the Indo-European family, this trunk here, and it branches down into areas that are specific for different languages like German and English, and we start to see, I'll bring our friend back here because this is helpful. We start to see, that does not help at all because it doesn't make it focused. But as far as us, we're looking at the Indo-European language family. We're going to look at the Germanic branch. We see it branching over here. West Germanic specifically is where we find English, and there we see the English leaf here, along with German being the second most spoken. Yeah, so our leaf is going to be the individual language. The group is going to be the group of leaves. That's the Indo-European family, and you can see how many branches go out there because it is, remember, the most widely spoken. Distribution of language families. Indo-European is the most widely spoken. We're seeing that predominantly in Europe, South Asia, and the Americas. The other one that's huge is the Sino-Tibetan, which is found in China and Southeast Asia. The most common one in the Sino-Tibetan is Mandarin. It is actually the most used language in the world. You think about the population of China. It's the hugest population. Everybody there is speaking Mandarin. I mean, so many people there are speaking Mandarin. Sino-Tibetan, a lot of languages utilize ideograms or logograms. This is the old term that was used. Now they're using logograms, but you might keep this in mind, where you have symbols that are representing words. And if we look here, we're going to try our tool one more time, and then we're going to move on because you people are probably already like, okay, geez, just move on. Okay, these are language families with at least 10 million native speakers. So when we look at Afro-Asiatic, you think about where might that be? Well, of course, that's going to be Afro in Africa, the continent. What else do we see? The green, we're going to look at, or the white is really what we need to look at because on this one, okay, it's not really white. It's supposed to be like this pale color here. Indo-European, you can see where that's spoken. English, United States, North America. We've got branches or families of Indo-European all over the place here. What's this one that stands out here? Of course, it's going to be Sino-Tibetan. And the green is going to be other that's not specified. Niger-Congo. You think about Niger-Congo region. That's the Niger River, the Congo River, Sub-Saharan. Well, why are they all speaking the same language families? It's probably because they all developed that way in that area. Other Asian language families. Austronesian. This is spoken by 6% of the world's population, mostly in Indonesia. The most common language is Javanese, which is spoken on the island of Java. Austroasiatic. 2% of the world's population speaks this, and it's based in Southeast Asia. The most common language is Vietnamese. Thai Cat-Eye, mostly in Thailand and China. You think Thailand and China. Japanese, it's written partly with Chinese logograms and phonetic symbols, and you wonder why might that be? Well, Japan and China, they're pretty close. So as it diffused, as speakers maybe went from China to the island of Japan, they took aspects of their language. Same thing with Korean. They don't use logograms, but they have a system called Hangul, where a letter represents a sound with half of the vocabulary from Chinese words. So Korea is right there. The Korean Peninsula is right there by Japan and China. So you're going to find similarities between these languages. And here's a sample of the Japanese alphabet right here. Language families in Southwest Asia, Central Asia, and North Africa. We've got Afro-Asiatic. Arabic is the major language in Southwest Asia and North Africa. It includes the language of the Muslim Quran and the Hebrew Bible. You think about this area is in the cradle of civilization where we all developed from, so it's only natural that the ancient texts might come from a similar language family. Altaic. This originated in the Altai Mountains between Tibet and China. Turkish is spoken there the most. Soviet Union attempted to suppress this when they brought in the communist regime. But now, with the collapse of the Soviet Union, we've got it back to multiple languages in countries like Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. I said this wrong. This is Kazakhstan, sorry. Then you've got Uralic, which would be Estonia, Finland, and Hungary. This is up in Scandinavia, and these few countries here speak this individual language family there. What you got going on? This is a representation of Kemal Ataturk, who orders all of the Turkish people to write with Roman letters instead of Arabic to connect with the economy and culture of Europe. So this is one way that languages differ when you've got a specific situation where Ataturk here in 1928 orders the people of Turkey to write with letters that are familiar to people in Europe so they can do business with them. African language families. In Africa, there are over 1,000 distinct languages and several thousand dialects which have been documented. Think about the whole continent of Africa, how many different languages and dialects you have going on there. There's a ton. Niger-Congo. More than 95% of the people in sub-Saharan Africa, remember when we say sub-Saharan, well, here's the Sahara Desert. So sub or below that is sub-Saharan Africa. 95% of the people in sub-Saharan Africa speak these languages of Niger-Congo. Swahili is the second language spoken by 30 million people in Africa, but it's the only official language of Tanzania. So it's only one country that's official, but so many people speak it. Swahili is used to communicate with outsiders, but individual languages are still spoken within the same village. That makes sense, right? So within your village, you're going to speak whatever language is native to you, but to communicate with all of these other villages and languages, they're going to use Swahili because that's more common. Nilo-Saharan, You see this in small pockets in North and Central Africa with relatively few speakers compared to other families, and there's the Nilo-Saharan, small pockets throughout. And cohesion. This is just a fun example where the people speak using the clicking sounds, where they're talking and there might be like, sounds very strange, but I'm sure it's very natural to them. Afro-Asiatic, again, it's up here, northern Sahara region, and everything else is below the Sahara Desert, so it's sub-Saharan.